Hello, everyone, and welcome to Witchy Talk episode 18. I am here with Sophia, so coming in from the AZ with Sophia all the way to the NZ, here with me here, so all the way from Arizona through to New Zealand, and we are making it happen. We're back on track, and it's all rolling through. So we're really excited today to have a special guest here with us. We have Enjolie, who is someone that Sophia has met in the community there in Phoenix, Arizona. So she's a powerful force in the community, and we are really excited to have a beautiful conversation today about what she's bringing forward and yeah, just the amazing, amazing projects and community that's being built there. So I'd love to hand over to Sophia to introduce Enjolie, and we'll get her on the screen.
Absolutely, yeah. Sending so much love from the AZ and cheers. I'm enjoying some Junie. Just got turned into this for a happy mind with adaptogens. Got some ashwagandha, some lion's mane, reishi, and green tea. So I've been really enjoying that. It's been quite lovely. Some sparkling refreshment, and that indeed is what Dr. Enjolie has been on this path, and it's been so refreshing and so lovely, and such a pleasure to see her, and the work that she's doing here in Phoenix, Arizona, has been amazing and is truly a gift for many. So yes, welcoming in Dr. Enjolie with us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophia, for the warm introduction. Thank you, Nicola, for the invitation. And hopefully I didn't pop in too early there. I apologize.
Oh, you're okay.
But I'm excited, right?
Yes, exactly. The excitement is what we want, and that's what it's about, right? With what we're doing. With our passion projects, is the excitement. It's really following the excitement of what is coming through for us, and it really feels like you've followed that excitement. With the psychology aspect, the hypnotherapy, and this like transition, the womb to the tomb transition guide that you are, and all these amazing things that you bring forward. It's incredible.
Thank you. And Sophia, you're rocking our shirts. I appreciate that. That's we through my community, I've come to become an even greater appreciator of art, and especially cultural art. And so that was for your cohort, the first design that one of our resident tattoo artists, muralist, female designer created for us. And I wore it yesterday. So it really is just such a beautiful piece that means a lot to us. We put a lot of thought into that design. So thank you for repping it.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I wear it with pride. It's a beautiful program. I've had the pleasure of attending. Actually, I think it was around your birthday weekend, we had finished up the course. And I know all of us ladies here just recently celebrated another year around the sun. So how was that, Dr. Enjolie, moving from completing that course and then also going into the celebration of your life and love, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really sweet question. And not only because it acknowledges my birthday, but because the time of my birthday coincides with a lot of significant grief and loss in my life. And so kind of part of, I don't know if it's the most important story, but a story that was front and center for my life for a long time was that both my husband and my father passed away, both from cancer, a day apart from one another 17 years ago. And I remember, thank you, Nicola, I see your compassion, I remember when that happened, my best friend, she told me one day, this is not going to be the first thing that you think of when you wake up. And so, it's interesting to like have my birthday be on the 15th, and then 2 weeks later to have such significant losses. And so the time of my birthday, it can be complicated, I never got to a place of where I didn't want to celebrate my birthday or, kind of just felt any way about not celebrating myself. But it was a like, you're in a time where something else is going to come in the next few weeks, and then my birthday is also often close to Father's Day, so like I was born Father's Day weekend and I was really close to my dad as well. So, it's the bittersweetness, is what it is. I think it gets more sweet, right? As we continue to live, right? Like I have the sweetness of my daughter. I have the sweetness of my grandchildren, of my community, of the people that want to celebrate me, you know. So yeah, it was lovely for all those reasons. And it was special to be able to kind of do it with all of you and to feel like really celebrated. There was many gifts that people gave me, and one was like a very simple gift that I was so excited to receive, you know, and just like so to feel like, and it was related to something a child gave me, you know, so to feel that kind of joy, and it's like living. It's what living is, you know.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it is through those moments in time and kind of what's led me to this work is honoring and celebrating the life and death, and that whole aspect is, if anything, is not a reminder, is that, right? To truly live and embrace that. And so I know our friend Nicola there in New Zealand also has a June birthday.
Mm. Yes, I'm
I
on
was
the,
like, I want to know our signs. I
yeah,
was like, I'm a Gemini.
you and I here, yeah. Yeah, I had an interesting, just really wanted to slow it down and experience what it was like to not have like 100 people comment on Facebook that it's your birthday. And I've had that one year where there was like 90 something Facebook or, wishes for your birthday, which is beautiful. But I really wanted to experience what it was like for just for it to be a closed. So I actually removed my birthday off Facebook and just had a really like slow, simple, I cooked a meal for my family here instead of them cooking for me. I wanted to prepare food for them to celebrate and show my gratitude to them as well. And so it was just it was soft and simple, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I really felt the transition into a new phase of just acknowledging myself and the simplicity of that, not needing to be grandiose, about celebrations every single year. Like it's nice to change it up, and it was also an experiment to see how I felt if people didn't get the Facebook reminder, if I was okay that people didn't remember, because everyone's busy and everyone's got things going on in their life, and I was just okay with not being wished happy birthday by people who I know still love me. They just didn't get that Facebook reminder, and it was really interesting just to let go and just allow it to be and not hold on to anything around that. Yeah. So it was a beautiful experiment, and I enjoyed it, and it made me feel whole in myself. Yeah.
It's nice to be able to own our birthdays, you know? And I think that that is something that I've enjoyed with age. I'm 47, you know, I don't feel a way about sharing my age, you know. I don't have the stereotype of like aging being a bad thing, you know? So thankfully I've never had that. And thanks to my grandmother and my family, you know. But I one thing that I've appreciated is that like trying to do things the way that I want to do them, and a little bit of, like you said, trying to mitigate what are people going to do, you know? So I've had the birthdays that I've not felt like what I wanted. I'm like, okay, how do I do what I want? And then also understand that people want to celebrate me, you know? So it sounds like you did that, Nicola.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And Sophia, how was your birthday?
Radical, man. I really did not step forward into it with any expectations. I know that typically around my birthday, I like to do something that's community driven. So I like to go out, whether it's working with people on the streets, it's been a big part of what I've done over the last 20 years, or animal rescue or something like that. And so I had the opportunity to connect with that, but I decided to book a flight out of town and just get away. And so I spent my birthday in Austin, Texas. And yeah, which was totally rad. Had some friends there playing in town and got to visit some really beautiful venues that I enjoy, and see some art and some music and theater and all that good jazz. But this was a first for me as well, because typically I love to give of myself, my time, and things. And this was a practice for me to really allow myself to receive, which was different. I had met some friends there last visit, and they said, "Sophie, what time does your flight come in? We're going to come pick you up, and you're staying with us." And so I had some beautiful hosts. Shout out to Donna and Damon in Austin, Texas, who welcomed me into their home and provided the most savory, delicious food and comfort and peace in their home. It's just what the doctor ordered, and I'm so thankful and grateful for that. And so got to share it with some friends. Got to spend the evenings dancing and all of the things. So yeah, and I myself too, I'm owning it. I'm owning, with the age and the wisdom gained and the lessons and the experiences and the big 4-3 for me this year. And so yeah, I'm stoked. I feel that it's been one of the best ones yet. A lot of things coming to close, a lot of endings and beginnings at the same time. And so yeah, that's something to indeed be celebrated. So yeah.
Yes. And the endings and beginnings, just like that transition into, speaking of the t-shirt and the death camaraderie training that you did, like speak into what led you there. Like how did you find Dr. Enjolie and what was that like for you, Sophia? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big one, most definitely. And I think it was the natural course of things to be led to that in this time and in this place. And what I've been healing through and working through over the last few years. And then reconnecting with a high school friend. It had been just short of 30 years, 29 years. So I just marked 30 years that I've lived in Phoenix. And so I've been reconnecting with my ancestors here and come to find that I have a lot of ancestors actually buried not too far from the collective and have been drawn back to these areas that I've been visiting over the last few years. And yeah, so that's been interesting to see how that's all tied in. But death work, I say, is a very sacred work. It's something that has been dear to my heart in my life since I was really young. I used to have animals visit me as they were transitioning from when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old that I can remember. And in my earlier years, I had done ministerial work with the church. And when I left the church at about 22, so about 22 years old, I know that that was something that I still was very dear to me and wanted to be active in, because a lot of the ministry work I was doing were in hospices and hospitals, or people that would contact me that I had known, and they were like, Sophia, I'd really like you to go visit my niece or my grandmother or my mother. So I had people in the community that would reach out to me, and I'm like, okay, this obviously doesn't stop here. And so it was kind of a transition for me, like, how can I still be a part of this? But it was a big part of my life that was coming to a close for various reasons. So I continued my studies and was like, okay, I'm going to become ordained to where I can help people that are transitioning and be there for families that could use the support, that maybe could not afford the support, or doing grief work and counseling and stuff in the community. And so I really was actually looking to sign up for online courses for death doula work. And when I was led to this, and my friend Julia, she's like, hey, I'm taking these classes. And I was like, that is an answered prayer right there. Like, I was like, this is so freaking wonderful. And it's in person, and it's, everything I could have hoped for and more. And so, and taking it back to everything from the womb to the tomb. I mean, there's a lot. I actually have my binder. There's a lot packed in here. Like, I mean, it was just, yeah, transforming. And what really has stuck out with this, Dr. Enjolie, and I don't know if I shared this with you, is a lot of the healing and the grief that I didn't realize that I was carrying, through the course of time, and death of loved ones recently, and the death of my sister and the death of my aunt last year, and a lot of things that I kind of was just so busy with everything else and everyone else that I didn't really, I guess, allow myself to deal with that. And so through these courses, not only did I learn a lot, but I was able to heal
Mm.
And that was just wow, 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 wow. So yeah, natural course of action to be here. And I really feel it was a great compliment to the work I've been doing, and really that extra key to walk through that in a different layer, in a different way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful.
thank you for sharing, Sophia. We spend a lot of time together and it's never enough time. And so I didn't get to hear all of these personal whys, and the connections, all of the connections that it had for you. And I'm not surprised, but I'm grateful, of that it could um, usher new things in, close things up, provide healing, I'm grateful for you being in the course, for these connections, and that it was fruitful and meaningful for you.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to invite you, Anjali, to speak a bit more about the collective and all the different aspects that you offer through that. Like, how was that birthed through you some years ago? Where did the idea drop in, and how has that really evolved for you? Yeah, the story. Mm.
Sure. And feel free to interrupt me as well if I get long-winded in areas and you want more focus. And I appreciate you all using my title. You are welcome to call me Anjali. So, um, I receive the
Well, with
respect,
that
that you
title is
with.
great respect, right? I
I,
mean, girl, I mean, that is a freaking accomplishment. And yeah, for us women, we definitely acknowledge that. And so thank you for, being a force in the community, most definitely. So that's where that comes from for us.
No, I hear it. And so I was like, I'm just Anjali, guys, so I'll accept however you want to address me, but you may just call me by my name. So I think let me start with the collective. So the collective, it will be 11 years old this October. We say we support urban Indigenous families from womb to tomb. I am not the creator. There were 14 of us that came together. And after our executive director, Maria Paracano, she found herself postpartum after her second baby.
Mhm.
And her mother had passed away during her pregnancy. And so she was like anyone, kind of experiencing grief and loss, postpartum, depression. And like, how do I do this thing called parenting, and this thing called parenting while grieving. And so she called many of us together from various walks of life. Some of us were in ceremonial circles together. Some of us knew each other from college and undergrad. And then some of us knew us from kind of community organizing circles. And some folks knew one another at that point, like 20, 25 years now, some of us 30, 35 years, right? And we always say we respond to a call. And so we came to respond to her call of a need for support and kind of what I remember of our first few meetings, it was about how us as women that identify as Indigenous women, kind of, and maybe not Indigenous to the lands that we're in, right? So, for example, my mom is Maya, we're Guatemalan, my father is Afro-Cubano, and so we're Taino and Arawak, right? And we're in Phoenix, so that's that urban Indigenous piece. So, how do we raise our families upholding our cultures and our values, and just do that in a way that feels authentic? So, for first 4 years, it was very insular. We worked on ourselves, we healed on ourselves. Um, I don't know that grief was specifically, front and center. I think people either know us through our birth work, and then they also at another phase know us through our food justice work because we have a 1 acre food forest. But we at different times taking different trainings for doula trainings and birth worker trainings, we decided that we had enough knowledge within our collective to offer a doula training or a birth comadre training. We use the word comadre because within Nahuatl tradition, the comadre or the comadrona was the partera or the midwife. That is who caught the baby, who supported families. And so then she had the responsibility of often naming the child, becoming a family member. And so that comadrona comadrona means co-mother if you translate it, right? So that's how we decided to address one another as co-mothers, right? So first, right, we had the our sacred community birth worker training, and then we did that, and I would say like we're really confident. I don't know if we're really confident. We're confident though, and we think we can do a lot of things. And then we're like, well, we had one section around grief and loss, and the reason within the birth worker training. And the reason for that, and as I share in our training, is because although we do a lot of birth work, some of our first ways of supporting community were with losses at births within internal to the collective, and also being asked by community to provide support. So there was and you'll feel me kind of decide like, okay, what can I say, right? Trying to protect people's privacy, and also like the safety of indigenous ceremonies and practices, right? So, and it just kind of going out in the world. So there are ceremonies like closing of the bones, right? And so we were asked to do that for someone in community where they knew that the child was going to die. They were kind of medically fragile, and the baby only lived for 5 hours after being born. And so that was our first community response outside of learning to do the ceradas through our teacher and our maestra. And so birth and death have always gone hand in hand with us. There are many people who say, you should separate them, and that's very wise. And sometimes you can't. And like where we've had to sit at the place where that separation hasn't been a choice, right? So within the sacred community birth worker training, we all offered at first just a session, right, on grief and loss, and talked about our story and the work that we do. Many of us hold, grief space. And then at a certain point, we're like, oh, this needs to be its own training, So the once kind of Maria and I said this needs to be its own training, kind of took a day, put my thoughts together. I'm a former professor, so I naturally, kind of can think through in a structured format. Put together a bit of a syllabus, and what are the topics. And then I started to just kind of make a wish list of all my friends, community, people that I would want to help us teach that class. And that first course was robust. It was many weeks. And the biggest thing was when we put it out and we promoted it, 113 people responded. And I know we were like, I guess there's like and in fairness, that one was free. We had grant funding for that one. So but we broke the bank. We went over our funding because that we were, Sophia can share. For us, it's really important when we say we support urban Indigenous families from womb to tomb. We also move at the pace of family and children. So we provided childcare. We fed people breakfast and lunch and snacks. We just, I appreciate our generosity and the way we hold things, So we've learned how to rein that into a way that's sustainable, or more sustainable. I think we're trying to do that. And so now we've come, to places of being, I don't even remember now how many cohorts, 5, 6 cohorts in, for the Death Comadre training, and then also multiple cohorts and kind of recognition through the state for our birth worker training. So that's kind of my attempt at a summary of how we got here from the collective side. I'll pause and see if y'all want to share anything, and I can also add how I got here personally if you want to hear that.
Well, it's interesting what came up for me when you were talking is you've got, the womb to the tomb, but then through the birthing process, you also have the death of the identity of who you were before you were a mother. So there's that mental health process. Somehow I'm doing a thumbs up there.
No.
I need to disable that. So yeah, you've got this mental health program and helping women through that postpartum aspect, because there's definitely a huge death of identity. I'm not that I'm a mother, but I know a lot of people who have experienced that.
And we give birth to many things, right? So it is not a requirement. So I was not a mother when I came into the collective. I have a very unique story that, we could stay here for 5 years if I told my life story, but I am a mother now and a grandmother, and no, I did not give birth, right? So my daughter came to me through a relationship with her father. That relationship ended. She stayed. The kids and the grandkids live with me, So just life is like that, and I've mothered many things, people, businesses, pets, there are many ways that we mother. So, I just want to acknowledge and some of the best birth workers I know are not mothers, they mother so many things, there are also some people within some of our communities that because of the spiritual responsibilities that they hold, that's one of the things that they give up, one of our co-founders, that was her story. So, there are many, many ways to nurture and give birth. We also, as a part of our work, and I'm using this terminology as well, is we have kind of an entrepreneurial, we used to call it mommypreneurship, and now, kind of call it social entrepreneurship, right? To be inclusive to as many people as possible and many birthing ways. But yeah, for some of us, we gave birth to businesses to try to support ourselves in the hustle, right? Post having children. So again, there's just many, many ways that we mother, yes, to these various identities and all of these transitions.
Can you expand on the name of the collective? I don't want to begin to pronounce it. I'd love to hear you pronounce it first. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you for asking. It's Siwa Patli, and so Siwa Patli is a Nawa, and the terms, it means women's medicine. So, I mean, it embodies who we started as. It embodies, right, the sacredness of our community and how we keep our altar first. That's also one of our codes. And to keep our altar first just means like that spiritual and ceremonial center is at the center of everything that we do. So yeah, Siwa Patli means women's medicine.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Sophia. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the transition of that, another thing that hit me through the course is, I was taken really deep into experience I've had and like just things that I had been carrying, experiences with working with others that came up through I mean, there was so much jam packed in this coursework. It was really sincerely thought out, and um, the deliverance was, I mean, just mind blowing experience. But the whole life and death aspect, and that was something that came through. It's going to be 16 years since my sister passed. This year, she passed in 2010, and I remember as she transitioned, I was in the hospital, and I said, I just need to take a breather because I had my family, and I was holding space for my family, her ex-husband's family, the kids, and here I am, and this is happening. And so I'm like, okay, Sophia needs a breather. And so I'm like, I just gently left the room and go down the elevator. And as I get out of the elevator, and I realized my sister had passed, then a couple is coming in to celebrate the life of a child. So it was like, oh wow, and it was like, it was that contrast that just really hit me. I was like, that is life and death. And I personally don't believe that one dies. Our spirit, our soul continues on. And it's very interesting. I think I shared with you, Anjali, how I feel like even more so now with the passing, I feel like my relationship with my sister has been even more, it's stronger, and it's wild how that works. And it's beautiful. And so, with that too, a lot of the peace that it brings and understanding these things, and a live altar, which was something that was really beautiful in the coursework, is coming to a space that has that familiarity and knowing that there is a space and an altar where we can honor our loved ones and that was really beautiful, and another beautiful aspect that you had brought into the space and in the study as well.
Thank you. What you're saying, like it's reminding me of our curriculum is divided into two sections, and the first one is just sacred transitions. And as you're talking about, your sister's passing and the baby being born, of just, like sacred transitions, right? So we talk about in the course of and for many of us, we think of time linearly, right? Like your birth point and your death point. And for us, like through really the creation of this curriculum and then also some other teachings and lessons we've experienced, realizing that for us, birth and death have always rubbed up against one another, and they're always kind of really touching, there's very few times that they're not, but we're taught to look at it linearly. And that when people hold, like when they hold birth work, or when they hold hospice and end of life work, they're often aware of that veil, that it's the same or a very similar veil, right? A similar entry point of life coming in and life exiting, because we're not promised that a baby's going to come earthside, right? And so will they stay where they are, right? And I say you can't do birth work without considering end of life work, right? So I was raised with the teachings in my family that ancestors are holding baby, right? And so it is, ancestor work. It is sacred. It is in some ways end of life work because of those continuations of, kind of life and death, even though for us, we're living one part of that, or we believe we're only living one part of that moment, but we're really kind of just bringing in new identities, new people, new ancestors, right, all the time.
Yeah, so that brings into that ancestral womb wellness that I saw on your website. Can you speak into that? Because there's that, connection, like you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it's a great segue. Not fully fleshed out, meaning what I'm about to say, but I'm excited. You can see that on my face. So the Ancestral Womb Wellness Gathering, if we're 11 years old, the Ancestral Womb Wellness Gathering will be 10 years old. So I would say that's kind of like one of our signature event, our largest event of the year. And that originally, like I said, that's why I think people often think about us as a birth working organization. Um, and it's not funny, and it's I say it jokingly. We always say that like when things happen in Carmen's life, like maybe when there was, a loss or something, right? She maybe like had a baby, right? Or started a business, and other people have these things that they, kind of do, right? After every time there's a significant loss. So that the first Ancestral Womb Wellness Gathering was for her, a way for her to pour her energy after the loss of her son, who she miscarried, at a relatively later stage. And um and so that was where we wanted to just being a space to heal ourselves. We anticipated like, oh, 50 people are going to show up. We cooked for ourselves. We talk about it. I remember being kind of at the reception area of like, oh yeah, I'll be here in the morning. I could not move because like 200 people showed up. And we didn't have any system. We didn't have a way to receive cash. We didn't have a way to give receipts, so I was just kind of figuring it out while I was sitting up there because we anticipated it to be like more humble, than what it turned out to be. And so over the years it has grown. Our work extends into 4 different areas, and we try to hit different areas, we call them bundles, so like one of our bundles is birth related, one is food justice and land related. So this year the bundle will be our mental health and integrative wellness. So we've been thinking about that and talking about that, and we've always said, we're like, Death Comadre, that training is received so well. How could we feature that, at an Ancestral Wellness Gathering? So that's kind of what I say is like, I'm just starting to conceive and think about how are we going to do that this year, with all the financial realities and all the realities, right? But what it's often been multi-day, and so obviously a lot of panels, right? A lot of speakers, but it's also a lot of our heart. I treat it as our offering to community, right? So a lot of ceremony. We do everything with an altar. That's what another level of what I say when we keep our altar first and or hold our altar first. It is beautiful, and I can probably take it for granted. It's nice to actually have you describe it, Sophia, because I think it's so central. And I think that one of the elements that we do well in the collective is bring the sacred. I always say like, oh, we see it. And that just means that people felt held, they felt like they were in community, but there was a sacredness and they felt invited. And that through being around us, that they felt the little spark of their connection to their ancestors was tapped, whether that was through a song, through food, through a conversation, through just the conversation leading to a memory. So I was like, if you would like to, connect to your culture, if you would like to connect to your ancestry, come hang out with us. It's not anything I can do for you. It's not anything that anyone can do for you. We create the space, right? Where hopefully that will be sparked. And at least you will know that you're around people who have a shared interest and a shared process, And so you'll be able to kind of open some of those connections up because you're with like-minded people, and we'll do what we can to support, in the ways that we cultivate, right, those connections for ourselves. And in that, we, like I said, I don't know if I would call us pan-indigenous. I would just say we're diasporic, so anyone, we all are original peoples to somewhere, whether we know it or not, whether it was stolen from us or not, that identity, and so there's always, or whether it was by choice and circumstance and, or forced choice, right? So we all are original to somewhere. And if there's a desire to connect to that, the Ancestral Wellness Gathering is a beautiful place for that. And the last thing I'll say too, I say the hallmark to me of like what the Ancestral Wellness Gathering is. I always know we CC'd it when child can walk up to any adult. This always happens. There will be this moment where a child will walk up to any adult and be like, "Can you open this for me?" Like their sippy cup or their juice box or their whatever they're eating. And I'm like, okay, once the kids get that comfortable, I know that like we did it, whatever it was, in addition to all the other many beautiful sharings of culture and cultural exchanges that occur as well.
Of course. That's beautiful. You're really cultivating a frequency and an energy that the child feels comfortable with everyone. Totally. Yeah, like that's the signature. I love that. Yeah.
It is. It's beautiful, and it happens every time. And I just wait for it. And I'm like, okay, we're done. Like we did it, So
And you're like, oh, yeah. It's amazing. So
mm,
you mentioned about like having a panel and speakers, and I've had a look through your Instagram and some of the beautiful ritual you take people through as well, especially the belly massages for the pregnant women and these different aspects. So I personally love to guide people on internal guided meditations and visualizations. So I would really love to know if that's part of the process that you take people through as well, to connect with ancestors or their internal self, or what that looks like on your side.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So as you said, and thank you for, kind of sharing, right, some of my other parts of my professional identity. I am a psychologist. I'm a hypnotherapist, right? I'm a very verbal person, right? I like this whole thing called talking. And I've learned over time, there's so many different ways to heal, but in the traditional, kind of verbal healing, right? That's my jam. And so, yes, we actually have an ancestor meditation that we use heavily, heavily, and as frequently as we can. I don't think did we use it, Sophia, in the Death Commander? I don't think we do. I don't think so.
As far as what goes, no, not that I recall, but I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because the whole thing is connecting ancestors, So
well, yeah, I mean,
so
it's hard not to recognize. I mean, it's just that it's just all around you. Yeah,
yeah.
it's the
So we tend to
unspoken it.
Yes, we tend to use that meditation more maybe when it's a concentrated amount of time, But to directly answer your question, yes, we do use an ancestor meditation. And then, as I said, I think so for me, for sure, some of the most beautiful learnings or remembrances, however you want to take that, have been when somebody has eaten food, so or heard a song, or there's an experience that they have, and that connection happens that way. That is a really special thing to watch. And so I'll give an example of this was during COVID, right? So which is not like too far away, right? But it can feel like a lifetime ago. So during COVID, when all of us were on lockdown, like we during COVID, it was the first time that we got our brick and mortar. So we got our brick and mortar in our offices, and we immediately started doing food distribution kind of outside of our building and had people kind of drive around it. We have pictures of me with a mask, kind of handing people food, and, other folks had helped us put it together. And so anyway, I bring that up because at that time, through that food distribution that we were doing, we give very nutrient dense foods that are kind of indigenous based ingredients, local ingredients. So it was corn based. And, every culture has the food that is respective to their community. And so then different folks started interviewing us national, and we started getting some national recognition. And people would talk about like this atol, which is like a corn based drink, thick, thicker, thinner than like an oatmeal or a porridge, but that kind of idea, and it's thick and you can drink it, right? And so you're thinning something out, right? Um, and so they would tell, like, I haven't thought about this in 20 years, in 30 years. You're reminding me of this recipe. You're reminding me of my grandmother. You're reminding me, right, of these things. And now I'm teaching my daughter, or I'm sharing this story with somebody, and I haven't talked about this in this amount of time, So I think
Mm.
that's like the essence to me of what happens between people or table at table, you know, while we're also offering ceremony through danza, while there's a speaker, while we're creating some sort of art piece together. Every year is very different.
Mhm.
We've had drum circles there before. It just, you know what I mean? It's based off of what we're trying to offer at that time.
Building community. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
When Sophia started to talk about the doing the training, and she showed me her the cover of her manual, and I we could pinpoint two of the flowers, but we couldn't pinpoint. So
Yeah.
is a black dahlia in the middle, and then the marigold.
It
What
is.
what's the pink one? Yeah.
So you know what? I actually only know it in Spanish. So somebody Google like, and so in Spanish it's called terciopelo, which means velvet. And so that flower, it looks like a brain, and so it
Oh,
kind of has all these grooves, and it's really thick
mhm.
and velvety. And so in Spanish, terciopelo is velvet. So we tried to pick we picked flowers. So our Tonalpaki, our community mental health team, right now there are three of us. There have been many more of us before. There's been up to five of us before. But I tried to make it so that we all picked a flower that meant something to us, that would represent the people. And, so we picked flowers that were used in Nahuatl cultures in Mexico. We also picked, two of us are Mayan. The terciopelo is used as well in Mexico. And Mexico and Guatemala are just border countries. So, there's lots of, and right, Mayan communities and Nahuatl communities like are always sharing space with one another. So terciopelo is used quite a bit in Mayan culture and also Nahuatl culture. And then the Black Dahlia, another person on our team, our male, our physician, that was important to him. And so we just wanted to represent many flowers. And then also, I think that's a representation of the collective, like all these flowers that speak to the countries and the places that we're from, and that also teach us about whatever aspect of ceremony or our indigeneity. So yeah, that's what they are. Thanks for asking. I really love that logo. So thanks for asking.
Beautiful artwork. And I thought I've worked as a florist and in the past, and so I thought I can't remember what it's called now, but I thought it was the one that looks like the brain. I just yeah. So
It's
yeah,
that one. I know.
yeah.
Somebody tell me in English because I genuinely don't know what it's called in
I
English.
think
So
it's coxcomb, or I think it's a type of coxcomb, right?
I can't remember, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We both
we'll
had
all
that
Google this.
question initially. Yeah, because we're all into flowers, I guess, right?
And I love that you're a florist. Oh, I always say that like the last career I want to have, like when I'm 90, is like I want to have like just a little florist cart and work when I want to. And I know it's not like practical for the flowers, but that's my dream. I want to work when I want to, sit up in a little, kind of a mall or something, and just make little mini arrangements when I feel like working.
Love that. Yeah. It was so satisfying. And that was like coming out the other side of COVID. That was something that I started to do because we had a family friend that needed a staff member, and being COVID, it just kind of happened that she asked if I was creative, and it ended up being that I worked there for a few years. And so, yeah, I worked as a makeup artist before that, and going to being up in people's faces after COVID and test pots and samples and things was just not appealing. So yeah, the floristry is just it's so beautiful, and especially the sympathy bouquets and the flowers that represent, some people really want the traditional sympathy bouquets with the white flowers, but then some people really want all that beautiful color, that you've got through there to celebrate life. So it's really is that transition. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. We have a lot in common, Nicola. I also, like during grad school, was like, let me make up a makeup resume so I could get hired and do the things I wanted. So we have a lot in common. But yes, and so these flowers also often it's a scent or a particular aspect of it that calls ancestors, whether that's embodied through I don't remember if this we have two versions of this logo, one with a butterfly, one without, there that butterfly is there. And
Yes.
so uh-huh. And so that represents that for many cultures, right? A butterfly is a symbol of our ancestors coming back to visit. For some people, it's connected specific to children, but that they're sent, that is the significance of marigolds, that the scent calls ancestors, right? There's many, many things that we do in many of our cultures, right? To make those connections.
I love it that the scent is, yeah, is that, yeah, because it's that nostalgia or the scent automatically invokes a memory of a time and place, right? And we have lily of the valley here, and it always comes up on my mum's birthday, so that flower will forever be, connected to mum. And the monarch butterfly is connected to my grandmother because she had them on her when we were little. She would have the swan plants and we would watch them hatch and we got to hold them in our hands. And so yeah, that's like forever a connection and a reference to that. And I was actually telling someone just the other day, because our workmate's grandfather is very unwell and at the end of life, and we were somehow talking about aspects of that, and I mentioned about the last time that I sat with my grandmother, and it was a completely sealed room in the hospice, like all the windows were closed, but somehow this little butterfly managed to be in the room, and it wasn't a monarch butterfly, but it was still the same colors. It was still black and orange, and I said to my nana, "That's Granddad, and he's here to take you home," yeah, and it was just how did and in a hospital, in a hospice, long corridors. I remember going out and being like, where is the entrance? Like, how did this butterfly get in this room? Right? It was phenomenal. So special. Yeah.
Those visitations, whether it's a visitation dream or a visitation like a waking visitation, are just so special, and they make us feel connected. And, and if some of us doubt, like, hey, what happens? And do they know? And did they see? And were they aware? Like, yes. Actually, I have a story to share with this. What for my maternal grandmother, there was a time so that I lived in Tanzania, Africa, and was doing some work. And I remember being at this hostel in this place that I was staying, and there was just this on a balcony, and I was sitting on a chair, and I just remember I just felt my grandmother, like and it came through smell of flowers, particularly roses, right? So that was now 22 years ago. Wow. Sorry. Time is an illusion. Okay. Anyway, so but it was 22 years ago. And so I remember feeling her, and then my daughter's been having a hard time as of late. And so she keeps telling me in the house, she's like, "Mom, somebody's sitting on the couch," and this is like very, this is the normal speak in my house. This is the speak I was raised with. My daughter feels that she can tell me that, and I encourage it, right? She's like, "I feel like somebody's sitting on the couch." And I'm not, it's like every time I turn the corner, she's like, "It's an older woman," things like that. She's like, "I think it's your grandma," which she's never met her. But again, given the way that I was raised, that's not a requirement, for us, right? It's just the idea that ancestors are holding babies, right? Oh, I'm making a connection right now that I won't share the whole story for my daughter's privacy, but now I know when my grandma's here. Okay. Anyway, the point is of what I'm trying to say is that so I started telling my daughter, like, do you want to see pictures of this grandmother, my grandmother, your great grandmother that you've never met, so that you can talk to her? Because if you're seeing her, she obviously has some sort of message for you. And, I was trying to describe her personality. That grandmother was really gentle, tender, sweet, but also crazy adventurous and would be like in the jungle in a canoe at like 80 years old, and just be like, what are you doing? Anyway, and so we were going through pictures and I found that picture when I was in Tanzania. I took a picture just of the chair so that I could remember that that is where my grandmother really visited me as I was in like a really big personal transition in my life. And I always really think about the transitions that my grandmothers had. Both of my grandmothers in the 50s and the 60s left their husbands in their respective, home countries, left their children, came to the US, sent back for their children. And sometimes that was a quick process and sometimes that wasn't a quick process. So I always say, I was like, those are the women that I come from. And so, yeah, those visitation times are special because they will link many things. And so I will share this part. I'm now certain that my grandmother is holding a child. Like, and that's there's something I have to explain to my daughter, what she's working through. I'm like, oh, that makes sense that the grandma's here holding, kind of a child in general, that the just, something that's going on in our household. So
Totally. Beautiful.
Mhm.
As you were talking,
Wow.
I could see a silhouette behind you in that blank part by your picture there. So yeah, on the other side, yeah,
is that, yeah.
yeah,
Aw. I,
a silhouette there.
I'm not a seer.
Hmm.
I'm not a seer, so that's not my, well, no, we were talking about that. Okay. Oh, stories. These are good. When my dad passed away, um, I felt him sit on the bed and I told him, I was like, Dad, I know it's you and I'm actually afraid to see you. And so like that's something that I have to deal with. I feel like I feel people in so many different ways. And so I
Mm,
will ask
mm,
I will ask folks like, okay, can you meet me in a meditative space? So when you're asking me actually, Nicola, about ancestor meditations, for me, like that is the space where I can control some of like my fears and I'm like, can you meet me here? And then I feel good, right? But I feel them in so many other ways. So yeah,
mm,
I trust it. And I'll say, speaking to that grandmother, she really enjoyed like watching us study when we were like in college and things like that. She enjoyed like watching us learn. I don't know, that's kind of and it's making me emotional. That's like the best way that I can think about it. I never asked her why, she'd just be like, wow, you guys study so much. And I would talk to her. So I was in undergrad then. I would talk to her about like, oh, you have to be here when I graduate. And so she actually died just before I completed my master's degree. But yeah, so it makes sense that she's hanging around too because she liked this. She enjoyed seeing us do this thing of academia. And I'm not calling this academia, but this intellectual pursuit, and the sharing of information. There's not much more I could say, but yeah, it's all pause.
And it's the community work that you're doing and the ancestral aspects, like the space that you're holding is holding the ancestors and the ethers close, and it's holding the babies and the spirits that are coming through
mm,
to these mothers in the ethers close, right? So it's like, yeah, like I see like the energetics and the physical realm that you're created, but then there's like an energetic sphere around that's holding all of these other dimensional aspects that are supporting all everything that you're creating. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for letting me share genuinely. Like I love talking about my family and that I think, hopefully Sophia, this is how I get in the
yeah.
class. I'm like, oh gosh, I just want to tell you all this story because I do know that I was raised less commonly, around this topic.
For
There's
sure.
many other ways I was raised exceptionally commonly, but I was raised with the us talking about end of life and communication and how you'll know that people are there and what to look for. Like that was like party conversation, and I don't fully know why. Besides that, that's just how my family was. So I get excited like that, and I prefer to teach through the story. There are some tangible things, right? There's factual information, but it's like, how do you connect it? And then that I get to just share these aspects of my family, like makes me really happy.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's keeping their memory and their legacy alive too. I mean, there's the aspect of storytelling, which that is powerful in itself for future generations and the younger ones. And it's it's keeping that going and it's keeping it growing, and that whole aspect of being a part of that, right? And carrying a part of that essence and that flame, and passing the torch, and lighting the spark and keeping it burning, and and all of it. And there indeed is a beauty with that. And I'm just so thankful for the work that you're doing, and sharing the story. And with that being said, this gal's going to head off to do some storytelling myself. I've been connecting people with places and spaces, and all about healing the land in which we stand. And so, even though we may not have originally come from where we're at now, does not mean that we can't make an impact with where we're at, and doing the best with what we have where we're at in this time. And I just want to thank you for letting your light shine in all that you're doing, in the community spaces, in the community places, and bringing that light and love. And with that being said, I celebrate you, Enjolie, and I celebrate you, Nicola, for the love and the light that you're bringing into community spaces and places, and allowing us to connect with women all over the world, everywhere from the AZ to the NZ and everything in between. And that's the beauty about it. And now in this time and space, it's about connections, right? And staying connected, and getting tuned into what we can elevate and what we can bring sound to, and lift up in these times. And so, yes, I would love for y'all to continue with the conversation. I'm going to be leading a guided hike tonight out with our monsoon critters under this full buck moon. And so, which is a great time to release and continue to let go, to make space for what is carrying us forward now. So if that's all right with you, Nicola, if you carry on, and I'd like to, Anjali, if you could share more information as to how our viewers and everybody watching and tuning in can connect in. And even if we're not from Arizona, I know that you're doing so much work as far as like possible donations, or how anybody that would like to connect somehow, some way, including an upcoming online Death Comadre course that I believe is going to be starting August 1. So yes, if that's okay with you, if you guys can please keep sharing on that. And I'll look forward to tuning in a little bit later, and getting connected with you a little bit later on in the weeks, Anjali, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for your good medicine, Sophia. And I'm happy that other people
Absolutely.
are going to get to experience it through you tonight. So it'll be good
Oh,
to connect later.
peace and love, most definitely. And through their love, one truly never dies. And so, thank you for keeping hope and love alive through our grandmothers, and lifting up their spirit and love and beauty, and strength too, that they continue to bring into our life and our space, that we may continue to pass the torch on. And so, keep up the love and the passion and the amor for all that we're doing, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes.
Sophia,
All
and
right, ladies.
yeah.
I'm gonna try to disconnect here. So Nick is the brains of the operation as far as the tech world here.
So yeah, if
We
you,
all understand. Yeah.
yeah. All good. All right.
Much love,
Much
ladies. Good
love. Okay,
night.
bye.
Bye.
All good. Well, thank you. Incredible conversation with you. Um, just yeah, just phenomenal. Everything that you have, had the vision to bring through, and to have the people around you, as it was being set up, that all just, organically came together all those years ago to start the collective. And yeah, just share a bit more about, I saw on your website you've got such an extensive team. Like, the team that is part of the collective is brilliant. So yeah, if you'd like to touch on how everyone works together, and some key people, that people tend to work with as well when they come onto your programs.
Absolutely, yes. And I'll share what's respond to Sophia's request and also the team. And yes, I'm grateful to be able to talk about them because yeah, we don't do any of this alone. There's no only one person, in my mind. We are very much a team and a family. So yes, we do have a training coming up. It's August 1st, and that one's online. We've been asked many times, if we would do one live and online. We also are in the process of creating a self-paced training that folks can access on their own time. So, we are open to folks taking our course from anywhere and everywhere. We do have an international and a global footprint, so the times are at least like Arizona time, right? From 9 a.m. to 3:30. There's the 5 Saturdays in August. And people can get information about, us on our website, through social media, Facebook, Instagram, right, all LinkedIn, all those. So that's the best way to connect to us. And then, yes, our team. So, I'm one of many facilitators, right? Through our death, I'm envisioning our flyer right now. I believe we have about 9 different folks that speak during the course of these 5 weeks. And those are the presenters that are some employees and staff members for the collective, and some are our community members or graduates, right? Folks that have gone through our training who have a particular knowledge, expertise, conocimientos, what we call it. And so we have chefs, we have our executive director who's a chef and also shares about, as I shared, spoke of the loss of her son and talking about perinatal and infant loss. We have a naturopathic physician on our team, and he talks about, the stages of dying, like in the body, what is dying, right? And we kind of pair that with film. And then I talk about kind of, the physiology of grief, what happens in our body as we're grieving. And there are many things to grieve, as you were talking about transitions, Nicola, and transitions of identity and death of different identities and birth of different identities. We don't only grieve people, right? We grieve jobs, we grieve divorces, we grieve land, we grieve pets. We talk about that as much as we can. There's so much to touch on in this training. So we also have, we want to talk about how children experience grief. So Maria Paracano, her daughter, who's kind of a little her, when we were creating this training, and she saw me creating the curriculum and the syllabus and us talking about it, she said, "Can I present?" And then she was probably 10 and now she's 13. And I said, "Of course you can present." Like, absolutely, And so she talks about the death of her grandparents, of her brother, of her pets, and the things that she does. And that's just like that right there is legacy work and beautiful, and that she feels comfortable. Like I said, when we CC'd it, we CC'd it on the creation, right? Of that a child in our life felt so comfortable to say, like, I want to create a PowerPoint, I want to show these pictures, and I want to tell this story.
That is
Yes, child, you absolutely can.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
incredible. Totally. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. So we talk about intended and unintended pregnancy loss, So we have Dr. Deshawn Taylor. She runs a local abortion clinic and also a clinic for gender affirming care and transition. Who else? We have a set of sisters that are two are social workers and one is an immigration lawyer, and they talk about their Mayan, and they talk about their mother's passing and how they honored some of their Mayan traditions, although they were here in the States, and kind of how they negotiated and navigated that process. We have Kim Stravers, who is a long time death doula and teaches for many of the common national and international organizations. She helps us talk about alternative body disposition. What else? I'm trying to think. We talk about real estate, and no, excuse me, estate planning. We probably talk about real estate in there too, but estate planning and insurance,
Yeah.
we just want people to feel prepared, and preparing an end of life binder,
Mm.
how you would communicate with people, how you would have home funerals, and how you would kind of incorporate your traditions into a meaningful, kind of celebration of life.
So extensive. That's yeah, so extensive, definitely. And so when you go through the program, like each aspect is part of it, or are there some that's like compulsory, or are there aspects that are like there's these other options, within the program of people that you can communicate with? Yeah.
Yeah, everything that I shared is included, right? And so our training is broken up into two sections. I would say it's called Sacred Transitions, where I think we're talking about the ancestral pieces, the cultural pieces, ceremony. We're talking about our own experiences with grief and loss, and kind of how we come to the work and how we hold this. And so, that's that first portion. And then the second half we call the business of death. And that came through kind of how I lived it, as I shared, because I had two people pass away, so and important people in my life, like where it was legally important, to kind of set things aside, right? I'm the oldest, so I was power of attorney for my father for a time, right, until I physically couldn't be there. So there were, things to close out with his life. And then obviously I was married and a newlywed, and my husband owned businesses, so there was just so much to put down, and to make sure that it was taken care of. And there was a multi-state aspect to everything. So my father was in a different state, my husband and I were in a different state, and my husband passed away in a different state, and his family lived in another state. So there was just, the trial by fire that so many of us experience and are ordained by, are acknowledged by, of like, okay, you went through this, guess what you're gonna do for the next 20 years, or this was like a trial that created a lot of growth. So that's how it's broken up. And all of within those two sections, there's 5 days. And I would say each day has at least two sections to it, sometimes three sections. And, they vary in length, but we cover all of those topics. I would say I think that our website and our flyers are quite informative. So I'm trying not to overwhelm with detail, but it is definitely spelled out in our information.
I had a quick look through, and yeah, like it's really comprehensive, but yeah, informative. So we'll drop all the links in the show notes below so people can find your website and find Instagram and all of the different ways that people can find you and engage with you. But it's such a sensitive topic, and I really feel like Indigenous people really honor that a lot more than, some aspects of it being quite taboo, aspect of even talking about it or having a conversation around it, and other, dynamics of people. So it's very hard because it comes on very suddenly, for a lot of people, that it's not just like a natural conversation. So yeah, I really appreciate the work you're doing. And at the moment, we're doing power of attorney and estate stuff and wills for my mum and dad at the moment, and getting to that point where that conversation is happening now. But in terms of like, speaking with, people who are at that stage, what to expect and what happens and what the stages are, there's the fear of even just talking about it means it's going to happen. And it's like, but it's going to happen. No one lives forever. Like, we might as well be prepared. So I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I remember we also have a mortician who is hilarious. I cannot forget her, who talks about embalming and, funeral, kind of a funeral home, services, as opposed to, right, other services. So, yes. And like you said, no, because there's so many reasons why, and we talk about that in the many ways we talk about the medicalization of birth, right? There's also been the medicalization of death, and everything has a purpose. So I'm not poo-pooing anything, but there are reasons why we do things the way we do it now, as opposed to how we did it 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, and the relationships we have to what is like a natural process.
Yeah, totally. Like that cold clinical aspect of end of life and beginning of life. And then, yeah, that really
And the
makes.
same with
Mhm.
Yeah, the same. But I mean, we all had ritual. We all so I'm both birth and death. Um, those were not medicalized procedures 100 years ago. 100 years ago, we birthed and we died at home, and it's not anything bad about birthing in a hospital. I don't want to say anything about that, but just what changed, why did it change, and what has been the impact, especially as it relates to like knowledge of ourselves and knowledge of our cultures, and essentially When we use indigenous, we just mean the original peoples, right? Our cultures, our communities. Why did they do it the way that they did it? What was the knowledge? What was the reason?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
how do we revitalize that, right? Because it's easy to lose it, right? When society shifts and doesn't uphold that way of honoring birth or death.
Mm. And not like removing fear, but like understanding the fear that comes up around it, like that transition of, that fear of because I do love watching the the documentaries about people who have had those near death experiences, and what it's like once that transition happens. It's like so beautiful on the other side. So we're so fearful of this like connection that can happen afterwards. But yeah, so I think that, yeah, just everything you're doing is so important, and so thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you for the opportunity to share and to connect and, to kind of get to know more individuals, right? Even beyond Phoenix and through some of our global work as well. So, yeah, I appreciate it. I don't take it for granted, like the trust and just the ability to be able to share and extend communities and to make community with you as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Witchy Talk. Yes, you've been our first official guest speaker. We've had a couple of friends come on and we just chat, but this has been just like really incredible to have this initiation to have you on. So thank you for being here. Yeah.
Thank you for the trust. I appreciate it. And I wish you all so much success in your witchy talk. I don't have a podcast is how I'm holding it, conversations. Yeah, I just wish you all the success in the world.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, I'll let you head on with your day, and there might be a
Okay.
part 2 in the works. We might get you on again and continue the conversation, like you say, all of the beautiful stories that we can weave in. Yeah, so yeah, beautiful.
I would love it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, take care.
The rest of your day. Bye.
You as well.
2 hours later.
Hey, we're just popping back in to do a recap since Sophia had to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, early to go and do your night hike, which is important and priority. So, yeah, just wanted to come back in for maybe like half an hour, just so that you can recap on what you wanted to, other aspects that you wanted to bring in, and we can
Sure.
have a little chat about that just to finish off the podcast. Yes.
Continuation. So, I have graduated to the level of leading solo hikes.
Mhm.
And an offering that I've wanted to really connect in with is the sunset. So, as much as I love the moon, our Arizona sunsets are just amazing, beautiful. And it's something that typically I'm snapping, sunset pics, and I want to share them with other people. And I was like, I'd like to share this with other people and the whole experience. And then too, with a lot of our nocturnal wildlife that I'm deeply connected with. And a lot of them are coming out, especially right now. Right now, we're in what we call our monsoon season here in Arizona, which is our 5th season. And it's that rare time of year where we actually get rain. So a lot of our wildlife is coming out, a lot of lizards and tarantulas and snakes and all kinds of birds and people that are out enjoying the water. So it's been so lovely and so beautiful. So this is the 3rd program that I am assisting with, and it's been so healing, and that's been one thing with the grief work and working with people in such a way that really allows me to ground it out and just it's healing. It's a way that I process things through, and also seeing life in the desert, what I call, growing in the deserts of life, because it is so dry here and we've been in drought. And so it's a reminder through all the seasons how beauty in life is to be found. If you keep your eyes open, your heart and your mind open, then you'll see it all around. And so that's been really, really cool. So yeah, this hike I'm doing, volunteer led right here. We kept it open, so a lot of our other hikes we have people register for, And hopefully you can hear me okay. I didn't realize I don't have my earbuds in. I can pop them in.
Yeah, no,
So
it's
it's a little bit
coming through
clear.
fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of our other hikes, we have people register for because, if we're taking them out on a night hike or something and it's dark out, we try to limit it to maybe 20, 21 people or so.
Mm.
And so this one I left like open registration. So like no pressure. If you want to show up, you can show up, meet me on the trail. It's about a mile and a half long, a couple hours. And so, of course I'm committed. So I'm like, I gotta get there. I get there. And I don't see anyone there. So I'm like, and it's been on and off because of our monsoon weather.
Mm.
It'll be extremely hot. So we had an extreme heat warning today.
Mm.
And then when the storms come in, they'll just roll in and you'll have lightning and thunder and it's really heavy. So a lot of people may be apprehensive because the weather like today showed, 48% chance of rain. Did it rain? No. But I go, hey, just my luck, but I'm here. I showed up, so I'm going to hang out, 10, 15 minutes, see if anybody shows, and then I'll just walk the walk, and maybe I'll find something along the way, see what shows up. And so literally straight away, I run into an older lady on the trail with her dog. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she had a little chihuahua, and I've got chihuahuas at home. And typically I don't approach a dog, but he just looked so cool. His name was Lou. And she's like, doesn't he look so cool? I'm like, yeah, he's 12 years young.
Mm.
And anyhow, I don't know how it came about, but she shared with me that she's grieving the loss of her mother.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I'm like, had there been people with me, we may not have had that opportunity to speak,
Mm.
but here we are on this trail. She's headed one way, I'm headed another, and we pass each other by.
Mm.
And so she shared with me what she's been going through and how also she in her years had left the church, but found it very important to share this type of work with people. And so like there were so many parallels. She's got Chihuahua, I got Chihuahua, and I'm like, sometimes it just happens that way, and I'm reminded to trust that. You may step forward on the path of life and have something set in mind, and things go a totally way or beyond your wildest expectations. And just knowing that trusting that things align in their time. And so I thought that was really cool because we were just talking about that. And even though I left the conversation, I was like, okay, all right, universe, I hear you, so yeah, that was pretty cool. So yeah, beautiful sunset, beautiful moonrise, and lots of wildlife. So I plan to jump right back on, and somehow, and I'm not saying this out loud because I should know the trail well, especially if I'm guiding people on it, but I must have taken a step off, and I was like on a whole different area of the park, and I'm like, okay, yeah, not on the trail, but I guess I'm just gonna have to keep going, and eventually I'll get there. So I ended up walking probably about just short of another couple of miles further than what I had intended to. But I saw a lot of really cool wildlife along the way. Several tarantulas, which are coming out of their burrows,
Mm.
a really beautiful black widow, a really beautiful snake, actually, one of my favorites, a Mojave rattlesnake, which you rarely see out, an owl, a couple jackrabbits, a
Cool.
few beetles. It was like everywhere I turned, it was like, phew, phew, something running across. I was like, this is so amazing.
It's so cool.
Yeah. And it's like I think too on the road, like sometimes as healers, we need the healing, and we're gifted that. And that's a beautiful thing that I find, especially in nature, is I believe that nature speaks to you in a way that you'll understand, you know. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing as we shared with our loved ones that have passed on. Um, that they have continued to reach out and speak to us in ways that we'll understand. And I think that's the beauty of that. Yeah. So
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So things don't necessarily, like you say, yeah, like pan out in the way that we think, but it's panned out in the way it's supposed to, right? Yeah.
absolutely. Yes.
There's like
Yes.
the power of non-resistance to what's happening, right? And not getting caught up in frustration or annoyance when things don't turn out how we think they should. Should the should word, which is a bit of a roadblock, and instead just like allowing everything. Mm.
Mm. Yeah, that's when the best things do come forward, right? Is and I mean, I guess that can be the struggle in the sense of, and I realized that in the, especially when I was younger, is like the relinquishing of that control. Or I want to make sure that things go just so, or just a certain way, or having an expectation. But some of the most beautiful stuff will truly unfold. You step forward with no expectations. I've shown up, I'm willing to put my foot on the path, and what are you going to show me tonight? um yeah, and it's often just what we need.
Totally, totally. Yeah. Well, thanks for the conversation with Anjali. She was so, yeah, just amazing. The community that she's created and the courses, that she's offering to bring people together is just so incredible. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I did not realize the whole backstory as to how these services came about. I mean, it's truly a labor of love. From what I understand, a friend in the community was dealing with some things with postpartum and the loss of a child. And it was really like a step up and a heed to the call, and really community pulling together to say, okay, there's a need here. How can we help with this? And from that, something beautiful truly has blossomed. And in the course, when I took the class, I believe there was a total of 16 of us. It was an in-person class. And a lot of, I mean, I'm talking really jam-packed info within 5-week course, everything from just going through the day-to-day breakdown, the stages of dying, pregnancy, infant loss, suicide, even like the legalistic as far as estate planning, life insurance, funeral services, different types of services, alternative body disposition services, hospice. I mean, there's so much jam packed in here. And the staff and the crew that she has put together for this program, totally fitting and well thought out. And I mean, for me personally, going through the courses, I mean, it took me through so many layers
Mm.
and so much depth, and again, going into it with no expectations other than I was hoping to obtain further knowledge that I could utilize to help people through this process, because realizing like we always have something more that we can learn and apply, right? And so it's like, okay, yes, I can offer this service, but how, maybe there's some, it's like loading up the tool belt, wanting to learn more and how I could further assist in these areas to truly help someone, and not only someone through those moments in their life or end of life, but also family and their loved ones. And so that's what really came forward to me and through many in the class. Um, after sharing our stories after the course as to like truly the healing that it brought. Because as we were going through the curriculum, you know, for instance, I had friends really young that died from suicide. Um, you know, I had a colleague I found after he shot himself in the head. You know, I've had a lot of really traumatic stuff through my lifetime that I thought I had healed through, and I did in a certain way, but a lot of those things surfaced. You know, so it was like every portion of this curriculum was like unlocking and healing, like fully healing those things that were kind of just buried under the rug that I didn't realize. I mean, and there was moments I was in class that I'm like, I had to stop myself, but didn't want to stop myself because the tears were just running
Mm.
down my like uncontrollably, but not a sadness, like a deep healing from it. You know, and I thought that was really beautiful, and it was, and there were several others that had experienced the same thing. And so it wasn't only a course on further understanding and educating, but the beauty in it is it was able to provide healing for many through that as well, and through and through our own personal grief. You know, I mean, I literally felt like I was walking through all of those experiences again. And you know, so it was really nice to visit that and to really find that healing and connect with it, I guess, in a deeper way.
Yeah, you know, like what you're saying is, you know, there's those layers to healing, and when something happens when you're, you know, younger, there's a aspect of something that you heal through, but there's layers that you just don't have the capacity to. So, you know, when you
That's
do
right.
that, it's like unlocking another layer every time, you know, and in NLP and working through my chakra alchemy program with someone, you know, I said to her, you know, the techniques that you learn will give your unconscious mind permission to release stuff that you now have the capacity to process. And so that's what the format of, you know, what they're holding space with doing that program is. You now have the capacity to process something on a different level, and so your unconscious mind is releasing it for you to be able to process, because
Yeah.
otherwise, yeah, you just be a mess. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, Nicola, I mean, especially too with the work you do with that, and in the work that's being done in the collective and the community is really, I'm really honoring, you know, the fact that you're able to hold space for that. Because, you know, for me in these instances, that even though I've worked with people as they're transitioning in hospitals and hospice, which is really interesting, I actually, as I completed this course almost to the day, I had a memory pop up on my Facebook of me. I was visiting somebody in the hospital and it was a late night call, and I had took a picture because I was reading a book on death work in the parking lot, and it was a poem that I had opened the page to with the hospital, the illuminated H in the background, and it took me right back to that moment. And I was like, how timely that it's just like this
Wow.
full circle for that. But having the capacity to hold space, right, is a very special calling, and I honor that because it is through that that us that are seeking healing and willing to accept the healing and find it are able to do so. Because even though I may have held the capacity to help others through these transitions and what, or have experienced it in with family members or friends or, you know, throughout the years, it's like in those moments for me, I feel like I have to be strong, you know, and I have to keep it together, and or like do you know, you're doing a memorial service, and even though like it may hit home, it's like you stay strong. So there's a beauty in finding a space where you can feel open enough to allow yourself to cry and heal.
Yeah, of course. Exactly. Exactly. And you know, they say I haven't experienced like I've experienced my grandparents passing and a cousin, but it was different to, I was so young when that happened, that as an adult to have someone really close to you pass, like I haven't experienced that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, like yeah, I mean, nothing can prepare you for that, but having the, all the different processes in place to, yeah, like support and, yeah, whatever comes up and how it, yeah, how it
Yeah,
unfolds.
it's definitely a part of life, and I think a lot of those that I know that do this type of work have experienced that, and like as Enjolie, for instance, was sharing her experience and how, she lost her husband and her father. And from what I understand, like a day apart, you know, and having the capacity to truly like weather those storms, because grief is, it's different for everyone, and for every situation is different. The grief that I've processed, with my sister, and to recently my aunt, is like I have moments where, I'm going through it,
Yeah.
but the beauty in that, missing these storms around me, is um having the will to weather the storms and still enjoy the rainbow,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
and
Like
and
not
take
letting it devour you and not letting it paralyze you or not letting it, yeah, like stifle your life, like you still, yeah. And I mean, that's
yeah,
part of the experience if that's how where someone ends up to be so engulfed by grief that it consumes years of their life, um,
hmm
which is maybe not having the support or not having the processes in place, to, like deal with it, like because we want to deal with it, but to be able to, yeah, I guess it's about nervous system regulation through that, to be able to
for
regulate
sure.
emotional flow through your body. And of course there's, you know time frames of sitting with that grief and actually sitting with it properly, but not letting it completely yeah, consume you, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Or,
and I mean it could be grief with anything. I mean, not only like losing a person.
oh, totally. That's what we talked about
Yeah.
on the podcast, and I think it's maybe it's not letting it not consume you, but I think sometimes when we don't move through it completely, it's almost like you stagnate in the period of deep grief, and we don't allow ourselves to come out the other side and process the other aspects and layers. And so that's where having like the support of someone who is a death doula or understands the process of the person dying, but then the support of the people around that person and the process of what that is, to be stuck in the portal of like extreme grief, where to the point where, like I said before, you're like stagnating your own life because of that. Yeah, like that. And I can understand why people stay in that totally.
hmm
Yeah,
hmm
I can't understand.
Yeah.
I've never been there within the context of someone passing. I've been there in the context of people leaving your life, and it was a process of going through that grief gate, that grief portal, and like processing and understanding through the sadness, through the anger, frustration, denial, all of the different facets of it.
Yeah. Right.
Totally. Yeah.
All the different stages of grief, essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most difficult challenge I had at first was having to accept the fact that people are grieving differently. And I'm not saying I was insensitive to that,
Mm.
but it's witnessing people, and people I knew and people that were close to me, hurting so badly, and saying, hey, but there is a rainbow at the end of this storm, but allowing them to go through that process and still say, I'm here. With my mom, for instance, it wasn't until maybe a couple of years ago where she's like, I've made peace with it. She lost her daughter, my sister, and so I'm like, it can be difficult as a parent. And so I had to allow her that, but there was still a very much a part of her that was broken because of that, and then the guilt and survivor's guilt and everything that comes along with that. um a lot of undue stress and frustration for, especially in deaths that are not expected.
Yeah.
um which really further, I mean, I've taken these life experiences where I feel that the work is even more so important.
Mm.
My sister, she was 25 and no previous medical history, and basically was in the hospital and passed over a weekend. So I'm
Mm.
talking a matter of not even 3 days.
Mm. So
And so it was
sudden.
very,
Yeah.
very sudden, very unexpected. So there was no last will and testament in place. There were no arrangements made. I mean, it was unexpected.
Mm.
She was young, and so there was a lot of tension in the family and in between families that came from that. And here I am in the middle, like trying to keep the peace and like juggle all the balls in the air and like
Mm.
make sure nobody's gonna like freaking kill each other in the hospital because there's so much bickering and fighting. And I'm like, my sister just passed. It shouldn't be like this, like in a moment like this. And so, and sadly that happens more often than not.
Mm.
Or with children, if parents don't have that in place, like, mom would have wanted this, no, dad would have wanted that, and it's just constant arguing. So there is the aspect of having that paperwork in place, and having something set to avoid that conflict. And so I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool too, how they incorporated that into the curriculum, because that is a big part of it.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing right now in our family. Actually, tomorrow I'm working, so I won't be able to be there, but it's not a big meeting, but it's just with the lawyer. And yeah, it's all those aspects of like the will and executors and who's this and who has power of attorney and all of those things are starting to talk about with my parents and for them and encouraging me. I don't have a will, but I like
Yeah.
have many belongings. I don't know if anyone will want all my witchy stuff who is in my family. So I think my friends will probably be able to come around and have first dibs on all my weird shit. So I'm
Yeah,
just
I think
declaring
about
this
that
here
too.
now. So, I don't,
Hey, I'm
I
I'm
don't think
seeing
my
a
brother,
couple things over there, Nicola.
I don't think my brother's going to want these artwork in his house or anything like that. So, yeah. So it's that kind of those kind of conversations that are hard, but it's actually you know emotional in the sense that it's not common in our family to have those kind of conversations. So that
Hmm.
brings up the emotion because it's not because it's like someone's going to die, but it's like actually these are connecting conversations we were talking about. What we want to happen, with the house or with the belongings and things. So yeah, I think they're really healthy conversations for families to have. And as
Sure.
Anjali was saying, like it's more common, in the environment that she grew up in with her family and the community around her, that those conversations are just like really natural. But there's so many instances where it's like cold. I think that might have been after you came off the conversation. We're saying like it's so like clinical at both ends of the life now, with just hospital and clinical. The birth and the death aspect is just paperwork, hospitals clinical, and it's not as warm and inviting and homely, so
Yeah.
um and so because of that you don't really talk about it as in a regular topic of
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which makes it feel isolating and makes it feel scary. um you know Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it can be the tough conversations to have, and that was the instance that I had with family,
Mm.
with the death of my sister and a few loved ones. It was like, we don't want to talk about it, or that's too much right now. And I'm like, I want to sit down and talk about it. Like, let's talk about it, and it's just like, no, so if like that's too much. And I don't feel it has to be that way. Yeah, I understand people may be grieving and there's a loss, but there's a reality. So like me and my grandmother are very close, and like we're both like very much on the same way. And she's like, well, just kind of say it like it is. And she's like, one thing you can be sure of, Sophia, is you are born to die. And the way she said it, with everybody like, oh my gosh, that's so harsh, but I'm like, it is the inevitable. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a guarantee, so you know but and then too, looking at it from the perspective of, well, I don't believe that someone actually dies, even though I'm not physically in this body
Yeah,
anymore, in this
exactly.
cavity or earthbound. So, there's a comfort in that, but with that is processing and the loss, and this person's no longer going to be here, and that can be difficult for some. So
Oh yeah,
hoping with the
totally.
work that's being done, that we can change that, and make it to where it's a little more approachable. And I was just working with the family a few weeks ago, and there was two siblings that were going back and forth,
Mm.
and arguing about, oh, I want to do the eulogy, I want to say this, I want to say that. And it would, even though those hard talks may have been uncomfortable in the moment, it would be a lot less uncomfortable than this whole back and forth, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
And then come to find their father died, and um he wanted to be buried,
Mm.
and because nothing was written down, basically the spouse assumed the role that, I'm not going to bury him, he's going to get cremated.
Oh no. Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm like, I want to be buried. If somebody freaking cremates me, you better believe I'm going to come smoking out of that oven, and I will come back and haunt your ass. I'm like, dude, that ain't going to happen. So just for that sake of, because I truly believe that naturally I go back to the earth, like that is enough motivation for me to say, like, it's time for me to get this down on paper,
Mm.
you know and because I care about my loved ones, I wouldn't want them to have to go through that. I want to make it as easy and as smooth as possible for them,
Yeah. Cool.
right? Or in my instance, I don't have children, so I think about, well, I'm going to have to find somebody to execute this will for me, because
Mm.
my dogs can't really talk up that loud, so you so what am I going to do? So even more so as being a woman with no children or next of kin, so to say.
Mm. Yeah.
um so things to think about.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
that wraps up beautifully, just like all of the, the aspects that were brought through with the conversation with Anjali, and then, yeah, just like how it ties in, to our personal lives, and for you watching, just the feeling into those aspects for yourself. It's what have my parents got set up? What is the conversation to have with my family? What do I want to set up? Do you have kids? I think once you buy a house here in New Zealand, you need to have a will. So once
Oh,
you
wow.
you have to have one written out. So
Oh, wow.
I don't own a house, so I don't have one written up. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Nick, I mean, because I'm on the road right now, you wouldn't happen to have like a traditional tarot deck around, would you?
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure you do, but so I'm real into numbers and stuff. And so with our episodes, we're at number 18, we're at number 18.
Yeah.
So I had to research this. I was researching it because the number's 18, numerology, the 8 and the 1 is 9, which
Mm.
I associate with completion, right? So then I looked up further spiritual meanings of the number 18, and it's associated with the hermit
Oh yeah.
and the moon.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I believe the moon card in tarot is 18.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to double check, because I'm like shuffling through my mind. I think that's the moon. And so 18, the number 18 blends independence, abundance, and life. It combines the fresh starts of number 1 with the wealth and karma of number 8, reducing to the completion of number 9. It signifies hard work turning to success, end of hard times, right? Marking the finish line of a life phase or a tough life phase. Inner wisdom. Some other interesting points I found. Deep intuition, spiritual growth. This is the number 18. Coming of age, marking maturity, independence, and stepping into your personal power. Equals the word chai, which is in Hebrew tradition means life or living.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Gifts and blessings. And also in the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, which has 18 chapters of deep wisdom. So it mirrors a lot of that text in those sacred words too. So yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting.
Awesome.
I wanted to share that poem on death that I was talking about, that I found the photo of the hospital. But what I heard today, and maybe I can share the text for those that like to read. And let me see if I can pull up a photo of it in closing. So if any of y'all are familiar with an author, peace activist, Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh. So a lot of his works came to me in my younger years when I was introduced to the Buddhist way of life. I was young, like 17, and leaving this whole thing I was into for various reasons. And so full circle moment, right? So I complete the course, and I don't want to give it away for anybody that's going to complete the course. But what I found was really beautiful is it led me back to here. So a lot of those full circle, and talk about the, with an end comes a beginning, and the beginning and the ends. And there indeed is a beautiful of that, celebrating another day, another year of life, and the opportunity to give back and to share and to care in our community spaces, right? I mean, that's something that I celebrate. And even more so when I think about people that I've cherished along the way, people that have took me under their wing and acted as a mother to me, great mentors and wonderful women that I've met along the way, and knowing that that's a way that we carry the torch, and, how their legacy and their memory lives, right? But I'm reminded even more so that because they're no longer here with us on earth, that we have that opportunity even more. It is a heed to the call to step up and do that sacred work, and all the work that we're doing in our communities, right? And showing up and holding space. And so it took me back to that moment in time where I was really struggling and in a dark place because of the work that I was doing, particularly with elderly and people that were in their end of life. And I was no longer associated with this church, basically told I'm a witch and I'm going to go to hell because of, these healing modalities and whatnot. And I was like, but you don't understand. Like, it's so much greater than that. Like I was witnessing all this amazing stuff happening. And that's maybe for part 2 of this conversation, but or next episode, perhaps. But I met a lady who decided to visit my home, and I never met her. I guess she lived in the town, and she was a practicing Buddhist, and she came over, and she's like, and it wasn't like, hey, I'm trying to, sell you something, like I've had many people with churches like, oh, repent now or do that, they want to push their religion or whatnot. But we got to talking about things. And I was thinking about this memory. Um, and so she came over, and I had just uprooted this tree. So, I was in between two households and, spent a lot of time with my grandmother. That's why we're very close. But I would go and visit with my mom at her place. And I remember she had this tree in her front yard, and it was dead. And I was like, I just got so tired of looking at it. But like nobody wanted to like fucking remove the tree, and it was right, like you'd be on the front porch and it's like right in front of your face. And I'm like, so everybody can clearly see it, but it was dead. Like the tree was dead. And I'm all about bringing plants back to life. Don't get me wrong. It can happen. It does happen. I've done it. But this tree was dead. Like it had to be pulled out of the ground. And like, so I'm like, nobody's going to freaking do it. And I didn't have any tools or anything like that. So here I am digging with my hands and rocks or whatever I can find to start digging this up. And its roots were pretty deep in the ground. Next thing you know, I'm like probably like 4 or 5 feet in. And I finally did get it up. And I was like, and I ended up, that was my first time cooking in the ground. I decided that I'm going to like, cut this wood up. And it was a cedar wood, and I had all these different branches, and I go, I'm going to roast something in the ground. And it was beautiful. I had like lavender and juniper, and I basically smoked this chicken underground. And I don't know where that came from, but yeah, it was a whole ritual I had to make out of this dead tree, right? Because I'm like, I freaking got tired of looking at it. Nobody was going to do it. I got to uproot it. So this happens. And the next day, this lady's knocking at the door. And so I don't even know how it came about that I found out she was Buddhist. Oh, through a friend. Come to find, like, that was her mom. They had got together for like chanting and different, because they were both practicing Buddhists. But she had come to my house, and she said, I just wanted to bring you this. And it was a sliver of aloe vera, like this small, maybe like 3 inches, and it had been cut off, right? So traditionally we use aloe for like healing and stuff. And she's like, yeah, just put it in the ground and it'll grow. And I was like, that's not going to grow. I'm like, it was like cut off of a plant. Like, it wasn't like I could root it or anything. And I was like, yeah, okay, lady. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know about this. But where the tree was, I decided to fill it back up with dirt. And I stuck that aloe vera in the ground, and it grew.
Oh, wow.
And it grew and it grew. And I'm like, I don't know what happened there, but it was just magical. And so anyhow, one thing led to another. And a lot of this man's works came into my life. And I'll share maybe some of the links to his books that really helped me through a lot of stuff throughout my journey. But the book, No Death, No Fear, Comforting Wisdom for Life. And so Thich Nhat Hanh, peace activist, author, teacher, he states, this body's not me. I'm not caught in this body. I am a life without boundaries. I have never been born, and I have never died. Over there, the wide ocean and the sky with many galaxies all manifest from the basis of consciousness. Since beginningless time, I have always been free. Birth and death are only a door through which we go in and out. Birth and death are only a game of hide and seek. So smile to me and take my hand and wave goodbye. Tomorrow we shall meet again, or even before. We shall always be meeting again at the true source, always meeting again on the myriad paths of life. And he's got some really, really cool teachings, and I'd like to share it for anybody interested in reading, anyone that maybe processing through grief or helping somebody through grief or just wanting to be supportive. No death, no fear, comforting wisdom for life. He also has a documentary that's very insightful. A Cloud Never Dies. And I've found it really, really helpful throughout the years. And so with the LO, we completed the curriculum, and through the collective, they have a story on a aloe that was gifted through them, gifted to them as part of the ceremony they had for one of the gals and her family. And so they had potted this aloe. And so at the completion of the course, we were gifted some of the aloe from that master plant. And so the plant now has like two little pups coming up that I noted today. And so it led me back to that full circle moment in that dark moment when I uprooted a dead tree and planted something that I thought maybe wouldn't grow, that was like this small and maybe shouldn't have, but it did. And so I think if we just continue to keep an open heart and an open mind and maybe just try something, that you just never know. You never know how it's going to go. You never know how it's going to grow. And sometimes it takes that first step. And so there's a beauty to be found in that. And so I just want to encourage everyone listening and encouraging everyone out there, like there is an opportunity in some way to give back in some way, whether it's a word, a smile, a hug, some type of comfort. You may never know what somebody's going through, through that day or what they're processing through. And so it costs nothing to be kind. And, it costs nothing to smile. And I am deeply and truly reminded that each day is a gift. Truly, it is a gift. Another day of life is not promised to any of us. So, what are we doing with our life and our time right now?
Yeah.
What are we doing with the opportunity that's given to us each day?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, that's beautiful. Wow, what a transformative story. What a beautiful metaphor and symbology that came through with the tree and the aloe and everything. So yeah, so
We offer each other healing is what we do, and sometimes you are that for somebody and you may not even know. And so helping each other grow, Nicola, we're helping each other grow.
and with that, that is the completion of episode 18. I love that. I love the numerology that you brought through. That's so cool with the hermit and the moon, which is appropriate for the southern hemisphere where we are in winter, being in the hermit mode. So we're in the hermit season at the moment.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Very much a hermit at the moment. So
And so that's going inward, right? That's going
yeah,
inward. There's
yes.
time for self-reflection and going deep.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Cool. Well, thank you for bringing our beautiful guest speaker on today, Enjolie. And yeah, I think this is a new trajectory for Witchy Talk. We will be having a lot more guest speakers come on as the platform evolves and we evolve what we're bringing through for everyone. So yeah,
Absolutely.
from
Yeah.
yeah, from what
So much to share and so much to care. And full moon blessings, right? We've got the buck moon obviously peeking through the mountains and the clouds and expanding out. And that is a time of growth, right? New growth. I'm thinking about the little antlers,
yeah, for the north.
right?
Totally. Yes, totally. I think it might be the cold moon here for us, the cold moon or ice moon or something. I can't remember. So, yeah.
Ooh, I would love to hear more on that, Nicola. You'll
Yeah,
have to share that with me because
it's just the
every group,
opposite.
yeah.
It's the opposite.
Okay.
So like whatever your moon is in your winter when you're having your winter, they're pretty much the opposite. So we have a buck moon, but it's in our summer, right?
It's
So
in the summer, yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. But it's so like we've got people in New Zealand that are talking about the buck moon and everything. And it's like, it's okay. Like if that's what you're connecting into and that's what you're transforming through, then that's okay. But yeah, I don't have my moon calendar near me. I think it's in the other room, but it might be the cold moon. Yeah. And it's fucking freezing at the moment. You can see snow
It's
on the
okay.
hills up on the horizon, so it's chilly on the air. You can
Are you serious? Y'all get snow down there.
not on the land around where we are, but you can see it on the hills around us. So, and we get frosts in the morning, so it's icy. Yeah, you'll go out and it'll be, all the blades of grass will be like little icicles all over them.
Is that right? Oh my
Below
goodness.
freezing overnight, and yeah, but then it gets up to like 9 degrees. I can't remember what that is for you guys, but just above freezing for us. Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe like 30 or something like that. Yeah, it's a little bit chilly.
Yeah. Cool. Anyway,
Very well.
that's us signing
Peace
off
and love. Heck yeah, from the AZ
all the way through
all the
to
way
the
through.
NZ and everything in between.
Hit that like button, subscribe, help us to grow, continue to grow, share, and care the community spaces around us and helping to lift one another up. So hit that like and subscribe and
That's
so much love,
mm,
right? Ring
yeah.
that bell.
All right. Peace out.
Ciao.
Hey.